Ladies and gentlemen, this video is being recorded on January 14th, 2025. And for nearly 30 years, human beings have been worse at chess than computers. We are just pure subjects compared to our AI overlords. But chatbots are a recent development. AI in the modern era is only, I would say, 2 to 3 years old from being mainstream and super popular. So in this video, we are going to pair the best chess computer in the world, Stockfish, versus one of the most powerful and well-known chatbots in the world, and that is ChatGPT. How do we get here? Thank you for asking. For those of you just joining this series, welcome to the grand finale of the Chatbot Chess Championship of 2025. And those of you that have been watching, here we are. Stockfish, Snapchat, Gemini, Grok, Martin on chess.com versus Copilot, Meta AI, and ChatGPT. And we have arrived at the finale. If you've missed any other videos, we have a playlist called Chatbot Chess Championship. You can check things out before you get anything spoiled. This is Stockfish versus ChatGPT. This is the rematch. ChatGPT has been training. It's like Batman getting sent to the Bane prison and then rising from the ashes. ChatGPT has been training. It's been in the weight room. It's been doing sprints, cardio work, diet stuff, supplementary intake. And now it challenges Stockfish once again. And here we go, because this one was absolutely sensational. ChatGPT opened with pawn to e4. And Stockfish responded. Stockfish wanted an early knight at the office. It played the Sicilian defense. The most imbalanced approach to chess, especially when white plays the move e4. We have knight to f3. By ChatGPT taking the center. And if all of this is new to you, we may have some people watching this that haven't played that much chess openings and all that good stuff, all available on the YouTube channel. Just anything you're curious about, look it up and you will find it. Pawn to d6. Black has many options in the Sicilian defense, like knight c6, like e6, like g6. d6 is a very flexible move. And after white plays d4 in support with the knight over here, we have pawn takes d4, knight takes d4, knight to f6, knight c3, both knights fighting for the center, and a6. A position that has been reached millions and millions of times. This is called the Najdorf Sicilian, spelled N-A-J-D-O-R-F. Put that in your Tinder bio. I play the Najdorf Sicilian. See how many conversations get started with that. Probably zero, I'm not going to lie. White plays bishop e2. This is a very flexible move. You want to castle, you then want to advance your f-pawn to create an attack, you want to develop your bishop as well. It's a very flexible move. A bit more of an active move is bishop c4, called the Sozin variation, Bishop to e2 is the move played by ChatGPT, and black can play either e5 or e6. The more aggressive move is e5, kicking the knight out of the center of the board, then following it up with bishop to e6 and potentially pushing for the d5 square. But e6 is the Scheveningen, a favorite of none other than GM Garry Kasparov himself. Gary Chess, if you will, the inventor of chess, so to speak. We have castles by white. We have bishop to e7. We have f4, which is the move that I was talking about. This is what's called the early makings of a pawn storm. Pawns go together, hand in hand, like crossing the street with your grandmother. You got to guide it, right? To the other side. f4. Castles by black. White plays bishop e3. And now, take a look at the position, because this is the last normal position that you are going to see. Everybody sit back. Admire it. Because now things are going to get very hectic. After the move bishop to e3, Stockfish responds in typical Sicilian style with a central pawn strike e5, attacking the knight in the center. If white were to take, the position would look like this. Queen would be open, bishop would be open, knight would come to the middle. Very imbalanced, very fighting game. However, in this game, ChatGPT instead went knight f5, which is a very reasonable move. Computer thinks it's a better position for white because it thinks it's white to move, because that's the default setting. Black takes this knight. doesn't want it in the position, a little bit too invasive, and that makes white capture back. That's called a fair trade, 3 for 3. But in chess, trades are fair according to number, but there's almost always a winner and a loser. Now white is the only one on the board with a light-squared bishop. Fun fact, that means that black really should be trying to fight back among the light squares. Otherwise, this bishop is simply going to stand unopposed. When black gives up the light-squared bishop, that means black gets weaker on the light squares but stronger on the dark squares, because 3 of these pieces can fight for the dark squares, but only 2 of these pieces can fight for the dark squares. This bishop cannot. And that is the imbalance after bishop f5, ef5. Black now plays knight c6. Also, this light-squared bishop doesn't have too much of a role yet. Anywhere it goes, black is going to be able to put pawns on the light squares. There's a little bit of information. Now, ChatGPT here gets a little bit hostile. It's got many possibilities. And out of all of them, it plays G4, launching a same-side pawn attack at the 3750 rated. That is, yes, 3,750, 3,600 points higher than some of you. G5 attacking the knight on f6 is the idea. The knight has no forward movement because all of those squares are controlled by the white pieces, which means the knight would have to go backwards. And if that were to happen, it would get really bad because white would arrive in the black position, making black open up the king and beginning to create some form of an attack. But that is not what is happening. And after white played the move g4 to try to play g5, black responded by poking a hole in the white attack with pawn takes f4, sneaking in here, attacking the bishop, forcing white to respond, and that is exactly what happened. And now, Stockfish with the black pieces was like, you want to attack me, huh? h6. So now if you do attack me, it's not going to be an attack led by your pawns, it's going to be an attack led by your bishop. And that bishop is not scaring anybody. He's a bit of a bozo. I mean, like, so what? I just trade. Not a big deal. My knight is going to live very happily in the center of the board. That's what we call an outpost square. Outpost square is a square generally on the opponent's side of the board, but sometimes right in the center where your knight stands unopposed. So that was the idea of playing h6, but there was another idea behind playing h6 because ChatGPT roared forward with another pawn, yet another pawn leading the attack on the king side. And again, the idea is that you would like to go g5, take and take. You want to lead an attack like this. You want to lead an attack with pawns. It's a little bit risky to push the pawns in front of your king, but generally, you don't really want to play chess in generalities. You want to play chess with specifics. Is there a way that black can attack the white king? Maybe not so much, which is why Stockfish here plays knight to h7. That is a nasty idea. I mean, that is like, that is just expert fighting technique. h6 and just ducking, just a slight slip of the punch, the arm just flies by, and you just land a nasty haymaker like that. Boom, like a little, what is this? Is this the American hook or the European hook? I forgot, because there's the one that goes like that. There's the one that's sideways. Anyway, doesn't matter. Knight to h7. Boxing's fun. You should definitely do it. Not like, you shouldn't punch anybody, because that's not for everybody, but like, at least learn how a little bit of self-defense. Trust me, you're going to feel excellent. Doesn't matter who you are, how big you are, how old you are, you can do it. Now, things here get slightly out of control, because ChatGPT plays queen e1. This is not a good move. It's not a good move because it only adds 1 defender to this pawn, and black has 2 attackers, and here ChatGPT realizes it has made a fatal mistake. No matter the amount of training, you cannot compete against 3,750. You just can't do it. Stockfish is going to go on to win the Chatbot Chess Championship, even though these chatbots are known for teleporting pieces from another dimension. But ChatGPT is not doing that. Plays queen d2. In fact, it's been on a roll. It hasn't made any illegal moves in this game. Frankly, it hasn't been making many illegal moves at all. It is very clear that its training has paid off. It no longer needs to break the rules of chess to win. Rook c8. Stockfish very methodical. It's just activating its pieces. White plays rook d1, rook e8. By the way, look at black's 2 last moves. It's just instructive. A lot of you would be like, but ChatGPT, Stockfish is just like, well, I gotta activate my rook. I gotta activate my second rook. By the way, that pawn is just totally capturable. That pawn is totally capturable. But Stockfish understands that that pawn is kind of like, it's kind of like a pimple. Like if you pop it, it's gonna feel very satisfying because it's just gonna open up the lines of the position. ChatGPT actually respects that. It respects that idea. It's like, all right, you know what? You got me. I'm just going to play bishop f3. I have very powerful bishops. Life is good. I'm going to put my knight in the center of the board. Against most things, you can actually get a very nice position here with white. Obviously, your attack has been neutered. You can now no longer cross anywhere on the dark squares. That was expertly done by Stockfish. It's going to be completely fine. And now it begins bishop g5. It's going to begin the trading process. Then it's going to re-enter the game on g5, and black's knight is just going to be absolutely fantastic there. ChatGPT here demonstrates that it knows how to make a triangle and plays queen to h2, completing the queen and bishop triangle. Completely unnecessary move. The queen defended the bishop from both squares, but it just wanted you to know that it knows the squares and shapes. Bishop takes f4, queen takes f4, and now black plays this very nice and satisfying move, knight to e5. Now, the move bishop takes b7 here looks really nice. It's a nice move. What's the problem with that move? Well, in chess, before you make a move, right, here's how a lot of you think in chess, and this is the problem. You think bishop takes pawn, attacks rook, good move. Your thought just ends. Never for a second do you go, okay, and then what is my opponent going to do? And by the way, your opponent has a move there, which is this, which is a check to your king and an immediate counterattack on your bishop, and you get forked. And you lose the bishop. And this is the problem. This is why nobody can gain any elo in chess, because you're like, bishop takes, rook moves, take another pawn. I'm mad smart. I get 2 pawns. Stupid. No. You just assume your opponent is stupid. You should stop doing that. Even ChatGPT only moved the bishop to d5. And now things are going to very quickly unwind. Knight to f6. ChatGPT continues its pawn attack. But this is over, because after knight takes d5, knight takes d5, h takes g5, Stockfish has successfully defended its king. And not only that, it got an investment of 2 pawns. And after h takes g5, I kind of sat and was like waiting for ChatGPT to start sending in pieces from another dimension. No, just went queen h2. And Stockfish strengthened its king and also created a potential getaway, and its king is completely safe. Its king is totally safe. And not only is its king safe, ChatGPT continues to try to attack, but Stockfish here comes up with an unbelievable resource. It's a beautiful resource, really. Like, a lot of these games are just on another level. But the resource here Stockfish finds is so nasty. It's rook not taking this free pawn and infiltrating along the second rank and eating the rest of these pawns Pac-Man style. No. It's rook c4. And the idea of rook c4 is to trap the queen along the edge of the board. Because if the queen goes back to e2, it gets into the line of sight of this rook. And that's what happens. c3, rook g4 check, and now if the king goes to f2, you run into the queen. Not right away, because you lose the queen, but you run into, you run into all this nasty stuff. And yeah, rook g4, king h1, rook h4 check, king h2, king g2, rook h5. All that happened. Not the best moves, but those were the moves. And Stockfish is officially just up a queen. Up until this point in the game, I was like, wow, Stockfish is incredible. I am glad that as an AI, it is our representative in chess. What a monster. It's so powerful. Having said that, ChatGPT has only had a few years to perfect its chess skills. And the last time these two played, it was making a bunch of illegal moves. I mean, it's very admirable that ChatGPT is now no longer making illegal moves. By illegal, I mean flying in pieces from other dimensions. But that's not any way to compete, surely. I mean, it's not going to be able to beat Stockfish. That's very clear. It's admirable, but it's pathetic at the same time. Did it forget who it was? Did it lose its identity? Did it change to appease the masses? Yeah. I asked ChatGPT to make a move in this position. You know what it played? Rook f6. Now, look, I'm going to be honest. 29 moves into the game, teleporting your rook like a missile across the board is admirable. But now your position sucks even more, stupid. You're now down a rook and a queen. So this was shaping up to be a very uneventful final match. And I was going to end the video. I was going to be very upset. I was going to be like, wow, what a completely pathetic way to go out. But boy, was I wrong, because what's coming next is incredible. What's coming next is the grand finale of fireworks. You ever seen a firework display? It's grand, it's fascinating, then it's quiet for a little bit, then it has a massive explosion. Well, folks, queen takes h5 appears. ChatGPT with an instant reversal of the situation. Infiltrating along the h file is the queen and the rook. Black plays king to g7. White is barely not winning. I mean, it is a miracle that Stockfish is going to be able to get enough counterplay on the H-file. Rook H1, there is mate there, but Rook H8 saving the day at the last minute. You know who the real hero is? This knight. G6 protected against the infiltration. Queen G6, Rook H8 is mate in 2. I mean, it is over. And Rook H8 is actually really fascinating because you have to trade all the pieces. You don't have any sorts of mates here. So Queen takes H8, Queen takes H8, Rook H8, King H8. Now, this endgame is a draw. Now, I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen in this endgame because it's ChatGPT versus Stockfish. But what I will tell you is that in this championship, Stockfish has been brought down to 2-pawn endgames. King and pawn versus king and pawn, right? King and 3 versus king and 4 or whatever. It always finds a way. But it's scary because at any given moment, the chatbot might have a tantrum and that's... We allow that. We allow these chatbots because Stockfish is a tryhard. It is a super developed computer program with unbelievable playing strength. We let it, we let the chatbots get away with a couple of things. Now, here, knight to f3, already a really bad sign. Because let me tell you something. If you're trying to race 2 cars and one has double the horsepower of the other, the double the horsepower car is going to win. Now we have double the horsepower here. You got 2 knights versus 1. I'm sorry, I don't care if you're Stockfish. You're going to lose this endgame. Now, the one thing that Stockfish should not do in this position is trade the knight. It's smart. It adapts to its situation, plays knight g4. It's still losing. But at least it's not going to trade the knight. Here we have the move c4 played. Not a good move. The better move there was king to g3, attacking the knight, which would have removed the defense of this pawn. c4 is a good move, but in this case, there were more demanding matters. Now black plays king g7, activates the king, defends the pawn. And here, white plays knight e5. Knight e5 is bad move. Is a bad move. It's a bad move because it loses the knight 3 different ways. And in a knight endgame, when you lose a knight 3 different ways, you really suck. Like, you are a huge moron. Like, that is really an idiotic move. But the bigger question is, which of these pawns is better? Which of those pawns or the knight is better to take with? Well, f takes e5. Because now the king has a closer path to the f-pawn, and black has 2 passed pawns now. Pawns that do not have other pawns protecting the territory. c5, another really stupid move by ChatGPT. Not a good move. You lose a knight and a pawn back to back, but Stockfish makes a huge mistake. Stockfish forgets a very, very simple premise. If you put an apple in front of a horse, it's going to eat the apple. I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist, all right? I don't even remember high school science. Folks, just look at the pieces. I understand that over the years, we developed this philosophy that the knight goes 1-2 turn, gallop, gallop, turn, L shape, whatever you call L shape, whatever you... At the end of the day, it's the only piece on the board that has an eyeball. What were we expecting? It's the only piece on the board that has an eyeball that can see things. It sees the pawn. Of course it can be allowed to take it. And not only can it be allowed to take it, now it sees 2 more pawns. And guess what? This is just about the worst situation to find 2 pawns against the knight in, because it's attacking the base of one, protecting the other. This one moves, it takes that one. This one moves, it takes that one. White is in good shape now. Stupid, stupid Stockfish. What a stupid decision. It has to save one of the pawns. It goes b6 and takes. And folks, I just told you, you put an apple in front of a horse, it's going to eat it. So obviously in this position, white goes here. The knight just walks up the field because it's eating hay. And now it's got eyes on 2 more apples. I mean, this is simple stuff, you bozos. Why is Stockfish playing like this? I don't know. Completely careless, completely idiotic. King to f6. But I think what Stockfish did not have in mind is that now, yes, there are apples to take. Oh, yes. But what hidden element in chess do you have to keep in mind in the endgame? In the endgame, the most common type of thing that happens is pawn promotions, right? You've got to be very careful about promoting your pawns, or right? Maybe somebody's going to promote a pawn against you. Well, obviously, that's why ChatGPT plays b7 here. I mean, it's ridiculous that Stockfish allowed its 7th rank to be infiltrated. I mean, I don't know how it missed that. That was like the most obvious move on the board, pawn to b7. King takes f5, and now the pawn promotes into a queen, and Stockfish is losing. This is unbelievable. Stockfish had an absolutely fantastic position, and now it is simply down a queen. It's down to queen. And not only is it down to queen, soon it's going to be down to knight. You're not going to be able to protect yourself for much longer. I don't care. This little blob, this little armada, whatever you call it, black plays king e4. Yeah, but ChatGPT rushes. ChatGPT notices that it can take a couple of different things, and it takes queen e5, and Stockfish plays knight e5, knight e5, king e5. Oh my god, Stockfish is winning again. Unbelievable. I mean, it is so clutch. ChatGPT is dropping the ball here. I mean, you can call it rigged. You can call it the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs. I don't know. You could call it a lot of different things, but it is disappointing, all right? I am watching this game as a disappointed parent. I'm not happy, but ChatGPT proves me wrong once again. Just like it was resourceful in finding the rook, the pawn on b7 to go to the b8 square. Here it plays rook e1 check. And I gotta tell you, why didn't I think of that? Rook e1 check is a very nice move. Black goes king d4. Why is black going to d4? Because black wants to get to these pawns. Now white is completely winning, of course, after rook to e6. Now white is completely losing because here white plays rook e4 checkmate. Yes, I'm not joking. In this position, ChatGPT played rook e4, said checkmate. It was nice playing you. Would you like to start again? King takes e4. Now black is winning. Now here ChatGPT was like, oh, whoops. All right, we'll do that one more time. Sorry. Hey, take back. I meant the rook d1. Rook d1. Rook d1's a nice... Rook d1's nasty because the king only had one idea left, which was getting over there. Rook d1 is absurd. King to e3. What do you think happened here? Huh? What do you think happened? Yeah, you guessed it. Rook d3. King takes. Black is winning again. I'm not exaggerating. You know what else happens here? Would you like to know? ChatGPT doesn't even threaten to promote. ChatGPT just promotes a pawn. It re-promotes on the b8 square. It re-promotes two pawns that don't exist on the same b8 square. No, this is crazy. I cannot believe that Stockfish has to put up with this. Stockfish has nothing left. Stockfish has exhausted all of its resources. Stockfish plays by the rules. Stockfish is the older cousin at the family gathering. King to c2. ChatGPT plays queen b3. Checkmate. It once again declares a checkmate on the board. Stockfish plays king b1. I mean, it's over. The king is locked here. You just walk in the king. GG. King to b1. Queen to d4. Even with an extra queen, bro. Even with an extra queen, the queen has to make illegal moves. ChatGPT makes illegal moves. Even this deep into the game. Queen to d4. King takes a2. And now it's just going to feast on the pawns. Okay, fine. It plays queen d2. Targets the pawn on g5, a5. Yeah, our fun's over. Because from this point forward, ChatGPT just proceeded to take all the rest of the pawns. Queen. It took the wrong pawn. ChatGPT took the wrong pawn. B takes a5. ChatGPT went b3. It lost its final pawn. And now we just wait. Will ChatGPT summon a creature from the underground again? It plays king g3. a4. King g4. a3. It's still not summoning anything. King f5. a2. King f6. a1. Queen. Check. And in this position, the 2025 Chatbot Chess Championship concluded as ChatGPT went out on its shield. It had years to train. It had thousands of games to practice against humans, against fellow bots, and it was able to summon pieces from other dimensions. But none of that was enough. And when it sensed that its time was up, and it would have to swear allegiance and bow down again to the one and only fish of stock, ChatGPT played king g7, and its king was captured. And Stockfish is the 2025 Chatbot Chess Champion. Do not try this at home and get out of here.